Hi, Brittany.
Yeah.
I'm good. I am good. I am excited for another episode of season 3. And today, I think we're going to talk about something that really links back to our new framework around our new focus on eudaimonia.
Yes.
Yeah?
And for our listeners, would you mind sharing a little bit about the framework?
Yes. So, um, basically, we are focused on eudaimonia, which means human flourishing. So we wanted to, switch up a little bit how we talked about our views on leadership, culture, business, politics, just the whole environment, the whole climate. And we came up with this framework, but it's actually ripped from Aristotle's five values, five virtues. And so we can remember it. And so you can remember it. It is the SPENT framework, SPENT. And SPENT stands for five different Greek words. S is for Sophia, which is understand why something matters. P is for phronesis, which is use good judgment. E is for episteme, which is know the facts. N is for nous, trust your intuition. And techne is the T, which means make it real. That is the SPENT framework, and that's how we're going to be talking about our subject matters going forward.
Excellent. Excellent. So, you know, all this talk about Aristotle is jogging my mind and what's been all across my algorithm, which is Bama Rush. Are you familiar with Bama Rush?
I'm not familiar with Bama Rush, so tell me about it.
I'm happy to share because you may think, what does Alabama and Aristotle have in common?
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing is, of course, Bama Rush is in reference to the Rush Week, that happens at the University of Alabama. So I have family members who've gone to the University of Alabama, family members who've joined sororities at the University of Alabama. And I've seen a few articles about women who acted as consultants for families who are interested in getting their daughters into certain sororities while at the University of Alabama. So I'm going to explain my very rudimentary understanding of Bama Rush. I should let you know any and everything that I've learned is through anecdotal storytelling and social media, but I'm happy to ground you, Karen.
Please. Because
Because
just for transparency, I've never pledged a sorority.
okay,
I'm not familiar with, other than what I've seen randomly on social media and some anecdotes from people around, the process of even getting in. I know a little bit about Rush Week, but I don't really know much about Rush Week. So any
yeah,
intel you can provide me would be fantastic.
absolutely. And I should also be very, very clear that this discussion about Rush Week is firmly grounded in the Pan Hellenic Council, which is different from the NPHC. The NPHC consists of the what we call the Divine Nine, which are the Black founded sororities and fraternities, many of which were founded at Howard University. Some were founded at other universities throughout the country. And so that is a very different experience. The D9 or Divine Nine experience is very different from the rush that happens with the National Panhellenic Council.
Okay. All
I
right.
want
That's
to be
that's
clear.
good to know. Okay.
And I should
I was
note
definitely thinking about the Divine Nine.
exactly, and it makes a lot of sense because there are multiple members of my family who are part of the D9, and I have a healthy respect for them. And so the main difference that I've been able to see, I also have family members who've rushed in various fraternities that were not part of the D9. With the D9, of course, there comes the kind of lifetime commitment, right? So for
Mhm.
many of us, when we think about Rush, we may think about or we think about sororities or fraternities, we think about the 4 years of your undergraduate experience in the Divine Nine, those relationships, that commitment to service and sisterhood and all of those things. That is a lifetime commitment. For the rest of your life, you will be involved. I have family members who are lifetime members, or they've been involved in their sororities for 25 years plus. So they are in it.
Yeah, I was just thinking of a friend of mine who's an alpha on the
Okay.
fraternity side who is totally in it, was from college, who's president, still actively involved, wears all the gear anytime he can, just that whole representation. But another like really cool part of it is the network that you develop over that time, and the fact that once you find out that your fellow sorority or fraternity member, that there's an instant connection that you can leverage, which is awesome.
1000%. I should note that one of our most recent woman vice president,
Mhm.
Kamala Harris, is a member of the D9. She's a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And yeah, you're absolutely right. And the difference in that is that you can still obtain membership through the graduate process, right?
Yeah.
We have the undergraduate process, you have the graduate process. Bama Rush, we're solely focusing on the undergraduate experience. So,
Okay.
using the SPENT framework, why does this matter? So this matters for a few reasons. One, to your point about networking, this is really the seed and the genesis of how many people form professional and personal networks at the beginning of their undergraduate experience.
Mm-hmm.
This is also a phenomenon that shifts your algorithm if you're on TikTok or other forms of social media. And it is, ironically, believe it or not, it is also it's a time-honored tradition, right? We have tons of traditions. So there's a there's a woman who is, her family, both parents went to the University of Alabama, and the colors, I believe, are crimson and white. And they are so committed, so focused on their experience, that her maiden name, which has since changed because she's now married with children, but her maiden name was Crimson Anne White.
Oh.
Middle name Anne, Anne, last name White.
Oh, that's very creative.
Okay. So understanding why it matters, there's a personal, there's a sense of tradition, and there's a sense of community, which as social creatures, we as humans, we love, right? Now, let's talk about the practical wisdom and using good judgment. So with Bama Rush, during this week, if you are planning to rush, meaning that you have an intent to join, or for this purpose, we'll talk about sororities, then you move in 1 week before other students, because you participate in what's called Rush Week.
Mm-hmm.
And you will list all of the sororities that you are interested in, and I will show you videos. These are very highly produced introductions. You have, if you think of, I don't know if you saw the movie House Bunny. This it was a spoof on sororities, but you have these big mansions that these students live in, and you have dozens of girls who are dancing these choreographed dances. They're all, hitting their eight counts, and they live in these homes. And it's a huge deal here.
Okay. It sounds like fun.
And so you attend events. All the goal of doing these choreographed intros is to become attractive and to attract the best girls, right? The best students. And these girls will go to events. They will get to know the sisters of that particular sorority, and then the sisters will what's called make bids on them. And so over the course of the week, you will get a letter that lets you know who's bid on you, and you will continue to attend their events. And then finally, you will see one of two sororities have bid on you. And now, with the advent of social media, girls will record themselves opening up their bid letters, screaming in joy, falling out in tears.
Okay.
So now the practical wisdom comes in, right? The scientific knowledge of it is that there are hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, that goes into this whole process. Why do you ask?
Mm-hmm.
So, with the advent of social media, a lot of these girls try to position themselves in high school as influencers because they have the goal of being, they want to be chosen, they want to be bid on, they want to have the experience. So, you want to go to a school that has a very vibrant Greek life, and these properties that these sororities or fraternities own, these are historic properties. Some have been, on this land for more than 100 years. And the cost of keeping these up, these things, they come with maids, chefs. It's a really interesting life. But now there's a new ecosystem of sorority consultants, which are women who may be part of some of these storied sororities, and they provide positional consulting for these students to be appealing. So, what kind of photo shoots are you going to have? What does your Instagram grid look like? What kind of clothes are you going to wear? So, if they are, if they're for example, if they're a Burberry group, then you need to show up and you need to wear Burberry. If you have to wear Tiffany, all of this. So it's a very expensive endeavor at the outset. So I'll just pause there. I'm throwing a lot of information at you.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Of course, we've heard of, and maybe you've done so, hiring tutors for your child, right? College consultants to make sure that your child can get into the best college possible. Have you heard of a sorority consultant?
No. I'm going to go back and ask a question. Why is this so important to become part of a sorority or fraternity? I know I talked about the networking aspect of it and the long-term value, but are there other benefits that I'm unaware of?
So the benefits of it is relationships, mainly, right? It's all in who you know.
Okay.
Right? How often have you said it's not what you know, it's who you know?
Right.
And so this one, can you truly put a cost on happiness, right? If your child is convinced that this would be the epitome of the college experience that she wants to have. And so there are a number of sororities where these are daughters of some of the most elite families throughout the United States. Indeed, some of the girls who are bidding, the girls already in the sorority, are at times even looking at the address and researching their home address on Zillow to get a sense of how much the parents make before the girls are attending.
Okay.
Okay.
This is so disturbing.
Yeah. It's okay. So when you have these consultants who are giving all sorts of advice, There's one woman who was recently featured in New York Magazine. Her name is Trisha Addicks, and she's the first official Rush coach. In her coaching service, at this point, she employs 19 people that she pairs with clients across the country. And many of them are moving to Southern schools. So, to your point, what is the benefit of this? Well, one, it's moving to a Southern school, which may have particular attitude or perspective on some of the ideas that we've talked about in the past, right? So, if your daughter's from upstate New York and she wants to go to the University of Alabama or University of South Carolina, her worldview may or may not be framed by that 4-year experience. Many of these girls expect to marry, right? So I'll just pause there.
Okay, so I'm having some mixed reactions around it. At first, when you started talking, I thought that, some aspects of it were positive, right? In terms of, there are certain skills that are being developed in order to, number one, attract people to your organization, your sorority or fraternity. And, you're learning, I don't know, marketing and sales and communication skills through that process of doing the attraction. And then also, as being courted, right? That is you trying to identify what's the best place for you, especially when you're young and in college and you're developing these skills, right? Selling yourself, dealing with acceptance, but also dealing with rejection and all the things that come with that. So those are upsides to me. The idea of bidding, or that word, was very jarring to me.
Yes.
But I guess it's kind of similar to in sports, the trading and all of that. So I'll just ignore that for a second. But this whole idea of selling or coaching, in a way, it's still sales for access and proximity, is disconcerting, because college in some ways is about leveling the playing field.
Exactly.
In some ways, obviously you have to get into college and be able to pay for it, and there's other aspects of that. But in terms of the relationships that are being formed and the perspectives that are being formed, that's supposed to create opportunity no matter where you come from or what your socioeconomic background is. And so the fact,
right there.
Okay.
Keep that thought, because you're absolutely right. College is supposed to be quite a democratic, small d experience. You get to engage with people who have different backgrounds, and you either leave college, feeling more strongly about some of the ideals that you came in with, and you're fortified with the knowledge to support them, or maybe you think completely differently about some of the ideals that you've been brought up with, and the values and the ideas. So I'm going to go into our kind of scientific knowledge, right? Our evidence. And I'll give you a sense of the costs around Bama Rush. So let's assume your daughter gets a bid. Congratulations. This is an average, and this is an average that some social media influencers who have rushed have shared on social media. So there's a $4,000 membership fee. There's a $350 registration fee. The live-in house fee per semester can be anywhere from $7,000 to $10,000. And then there's a $1,500 to $3,000 council fee for the Panhellenic Council. So given some of these fees, the coach has like an online pre-recorded course, series of videos. That's about $149. But if you want the one-to-one coaching, that's going to be around $5,000 for the one-to-one coaching. So I will just pause right there. What is your reaction to what I've shared?
Well, I think my quick math was like somewhere between $30,000 to $35,000, right? So now we've person. I didn't even think about per semester. So that's insane. First of all, and then not to mention the costs before you even get to that process, right? Because you mentioned that girls are trying to create their personal brands and become major influencers and all of that just to be recognized, right? And all of that.
Shoots, makeup, hair, nails, all of it. Yep.
Exactly. Designer brands that they may or may not be able to afford, things of that nature. So you have all of that. Then you have to go into this process and spend all this money. And it actually is just feeding into same certain groups, right, that have access to those monies, right? And doesn't create the small d democratic process that is necessary for people to grow and thrive and understand from a global perspective, like what the world is really like. And so it's just reinforcing seemingly old or traditional concepts about who should benefit and have that access over the long term. And it's just the domino effect.
Yeah.
Right.
So that takes us into our end, right? The intuitive understanding, the nous of it all. Because I should be quite clear that these sororities do a ton of public service, they do a ton of volunteering, and we have a clearer understanding of the investment that's required to be there, right? So were your daughter to come in without any sort of prior understanding and say, I just have a passion for service. I want to serve. I want to show up, get good grades, and I want to meet like-minded women like myself who are interested in serving the community. Our intuitive understanding of what I hear you saying is that there seems to be some misalignment there because I don't know how. It seems like service kind of gets lost in the shuffle.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, anyone should be able to be called to service and serve, but this is not for anyone. This is for anyone who has money to be. And also, what it doesn't seem like is that that money is being used for service. It's just being used for access. And that doesn't seem like that is part of the purpose of what these organizations are supposed to be about, nor is it about what we should be teaching young people about being servant leaders within their college, within the community, within the world. So that's being skewed because it's just about, for lack of a better term, being with the cool kids or being popular with the cool kids, right? Like that just feels distorted to me. And it also feels like, I don't know who this coach is, but I'm going to assume they're not in college, but it feels like adults, all right, are just getting in the middle of young people business. And for so many years, they've been doing okay, right? Seemingly, and building their own communities. And those communities have grown throughout time. They've stuck together. They've built those networks. They have those, like you said, those graduate programs that they can continue to build. But why are adults getting all involved in this?
Yeah. And so that's a great question because this woman, Addicts, that we mentioned before, she went to college in 1986. She's from North Carolina. She enrolled at the University of Georgia. And so she lined up with other girls. They wore all white dresses for bid day. And she saw that her bid card was empty. No one had bid on her. And she rushed again the next year and was able to get into a sorority. But that experience stuck with her enough for her to, again, she went to college in 1986, so we can estimate how old she is now. It stuck with her long enough for her to offer this as a service to other girls. So one of her clients spoke. She says, rushing a sorority is a long and complicated process, but it would still be the easiest way to find the right kind of friendship on campus with other white, wealthy, well-connected girls.
Mm.
Now, you need a photograph, a resume, a short video has to be submitted to each sorority. And then the summer is spent requesting letters of recommendation from either sorority alumni, choosing outfits, building a social media page. And so it's actually a little longer than a week. It's about 9 days divided into themed rounds. So Addicts, when she meets a client, she writes down a prediction of where she thinks they'll land. And so she tells them, be who you are looking for is looking for. So become the person you want to select you.
Oh,
So
don't be you. Okay.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So she will say, you should hire a photographer to take a portrait in a setting that's meaningful but not too formal. You have a minute-long video to communicate your worth, right? So
Your work. Okay.
your worth, right? So I'm using these words. This is not from the article. I should be clear.
Okay.
But
Paraphrasing. Got it.
right, exactly. I'm paraphrasing. So Addicts told her client, Gracie, to tweak her answers to speak more about her friendships and less about her grades and her accomplishments, which is really interesting. So you should answer questions like, what are your 2 favorite words that would describe you? What was your favorite class in high school? Not how you did, but what was your favorite, right? What is your most life-changing moment? And so this is a direct quote. She says the client should post frequently online. Frequently is about maybe 3 times a day. So you want to be someone who looks like a loyal friend. The number of photos by yourself should not exceed the number of photos with your friends. There should be no images of you in a swimsuit. And photos with sports teammates are fine, but shouldn't be anywhere suggestive like a beach. And clients from the Northeast, for example, folks like us, you should wear bigger, flouncier, more conservative ensembles. So now, again, things that are off limits: booty shorts, low cut tops, sheer tops, stilettos, over the knee boots, cutouts, tighter bodycon dresses. Be dynamic enough to be remembered, but not too flashy. It's expressing your individuality in the right situation.
It feels so contradictory. Like, what do you want a resume for? Okay, if you want people to focus on their friendships, you don't, and not focus on grades, right? So nothing about your intellect, just about how you can be a good friend. This feels very stressful, having to curate a false image.
Not that you actually have to be. You don't need a friend recommendation letter.
Oh, you don't need. Oh, okay.
Just saying. That was her term. She said you must appear to be a good friend.
So you have to curate an identity that may not be your own.
Correct.
In order to potentially get access to the group that you want to get access to. In some ways, though, I mean, what are her results? Because right now, this sounds like a grift.
This is a great question. It's not clear. It's not clear.
Okay, that makes sense.
What the results are. It seems that she says the rush coach is insurance. It's $5,000 or more to guarantee a spot in a house. But a bid is not necessarily guaranteed for those who follow every piece of advice in her, what she called a Rush Bible. Other coaches who offer similar services at the same or a higher price point didn't comment on whether they'd coached girls who've been rejected. So anyone that says 100% of clients get into a sorority across the board is not being upfront with you. So the most expensive service offers unlimited one-on-one coaching with the chief consultant, full social media edit, vocabulary sheets for conversation during rush, and care packages sent to your dorm, including custom stationery to write thank you notes.
So we're also teaching manipulation on top of it. So these are the skills that we are compelling girls to learn. Right?
The one of the social media influencers who dropped her sorority, she says the girls treat Rush like it's life or death. If they don't get a house they want, they will drop completely from recruitment and go into a depressive episode. But ultimately, the coach's clients believe it's worth the price. So the girl Gracie that we mentioned, she found herself in a unique position to choose her sorority, not the other way around. So before she opened the envelope, she pressed record to send a video to her mother. When she read the sorority's invitation, her eyes lit up. She jumped up and down. Her mother, who was only 5 states away, took a screenshot for their family Christmas card. It was pure joy to know that I'd worked so hard and I put such time and energy to get that card and open it up. It's so happy. It's so rewarding. So, my question, the artistry of it, right? Is authenticity real? Is it what you make it?
It's an excellent question. And today, it's very hard to determine if it is real or not, or how to even demonstrate it. So in a world that you can so easily manipulate your image, your voice, everything about you, and curate it to fit a certain narrative. And that's actually encouraged. We see that particularly in the job hunt, right? With people really trying to beat the AI tools, not necessarily be their authentic selves, because their authentic selves cannot be read by AI, or it's a human's not even looking at it. So we see that already. And now we're seeing that young people, are being taught to do that even before they leave high school, right? In order to participate in these types of groups. That is the lessons that we are pushing in order to obtain whatever it is that they want to obtain. So don't be who you are, because who you are may not get you where you need to be. Yet we want people to be authentic. We reward authenticity. We feel that. And how is this generation going to learn what that means, or how to even feel it between two people, if they can never be their true selves because they're told that's not good enough? I don't like that we're commoditizing these types of relationships and interactions. That just doesn't feel right to me. I don't like that older people are not giving younger people their autonomy and leaving them to their own devices to discover and explore how even these processes can evolve, right? And I'm sure they have evolved over time. They go to college to be their own people and to learn what they need to learn, or to learn how to learn, and then come out as hopefully as critical thinkers that can evolve, especially in these very changing times. And if everything is handed to them on a plate in that way, like, here's exactly how to speak, here are the words to use, here's how to act, how do they develop their own sense of self and their own sense of confidence? How do they develop resilience if some of those things are just handed to them and they're not given the opportunity to build up, through rejection, through hardship, through all of those things that make us who we are? I'm Gen X, right? And, the jokes are on social media that we're the toughest. We can just be left to the wolves and we'll survive. And that's where I come from. Because a lot of this softness is very irritating because if there was an apocalypse tomorrow, okay, who's going to survive? All right. I don't know that the younger generation will. I don't know that I will either. But the point is, I think I have a different kind of chance, So it's very disturbing. I also think that, in some ways, it is creative, right? You're taking advantage of a situation, you're taking advantage of the emotions that people have around this stuff and tapping into that. Parents will pay the money because they want to see pure joy on their child's face. College is a, a life-changing situation, right? And you want to be sure that when you send your child off, that they are happy, that they have friends, right? They'll do the work, but if they don't have friends, they're not happy. So it's taking advantage of a lot of these things. I guess it's no different in some ways than the the coaches and consultants that help people get into certain colleges.
Right.
This is just another angle.
Yeah.
But I also have critiques for the collegiate coaches, right? Because you're skewing the game and not everybody has access. So it's a very complex issue. I admire the creativity, but I question the methodology and I'm wondering about the results.
Yeah, it makes me think of the celebrities who recently, a few years ago were, is it Felicity Huffman? There were a few folks who were charged with
Mm-hmm.
lying on their kids' applications and
Yes.
taking these photo shoots as if their children were part of these teams, all for the chance to be admitted into these schools. And so, I consider myself in some ways a traditionalist. I love the idea of tradition. I love the idea of passing down practices and values and all of the things that connect us and reinforce connection to one another.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always an ongoing conversation within myself, within others, about which traditions we keep
Mm-hmm.
and for what purpose, and which we choose to set down and lay down. Um, yeah, I mean, I have members of my family who are very ardent about being part of one particular sorority. And the question is always, okay, why? Right? Why this one as opposed to others?
Mm-hmm.
And um, and so again, I can understand a parent wanting. I can understand you wanting to do something that's good for your kids.
Yeah.
And I guess it comes back to the question: what does good mean? Right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people want to be grounded in something and feel connected. And being connected to a particular group, as we are social creatures, is a very, very powerful draw. Um, but when is that draw becoming harmful? Not only to you, but the people around you, and at a macro level, society. So those are questions I think we always have to ask ourselves. I don't think that we do, because as individuals, we want what we want. We look at it through a very narrow scope. But particularly now, we have to ask the bigger questions. As we see unemployment rates rise, some of these things become even more attractive. A lot of kids are going to college and they're coming out and they can't get jobs. And with AI on the rise, there's a lot of chatter about what that effect will be and how entry level jobs will be affected. And your network becomes even more valuable, even more necessary, uh, even more like life or death, essentially. And so I think it's going to fuel more of these types of services and focus on building those relationships and connections to powerful people and groups more intentionally as they start in younger years. I mean, that's what private schools are for also too, that proximity and access. And so it's just another extension of that. I think we can expect to probably see more, but we have to keep a watch on what the effect will be long term. And who benefits? That's always the question.
Letting me take you down this journey. Hopefully you saw.
Listen, I learned something new. I mean, this is amazing. I'm gonna, now follow Bama Rush on TikTok.
I'm going to send you a ton of videos to observe
and see what happens. I always think back, like, what if I did pledge? What would be different? And I thought about it, I don't know, maybe like 10 years ago, should I try? And I was like, well, which one? Like, who do I represent? And then I was like, you know what? I represent myself. And that's enough. So
it's not too late, depending on the work,
I know. But I think I'm good, but we'll see. Maybe after I look at some of these TikToks, I'll be like, oh, maybe I should explore what that's about and see what they're doing in the community. I might be my tune, You might be seeing me raising up signs and all sorts of things, whatever they do. I don't want to raise it because then I'll get in trouble. All right. All right. This was a great discussion. Thanks for, teaching me something new today. All right. Bye.